This makes me a bit uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway because today is going to be a little bit different than maybe the next entrepreneur success story that you give your time and attention to will be your own success story. And to help you to do that, I need to get uncomfortable and share an area of my life that I'd much rather be kept private. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Mick Meaney and I have over 30 websites, and one of them is called ProfitCopilot.com. It's where I share all the marketing stuff that works and even the stuff that doesn't. And that's so you can avoid making the same mistakes that I have. And I've made dozens and dozens of mistakes over the years. I think we all have. But you see, I've been making 100% of my income from the internet since 2004. And in that time, I've helped brands and influencers that you've probably heard of. But all that didn't happen overnight. It was really tough in the beginning. I struggled for years. And to be honest, I barely survived. And in order to survive, I had to scrub public restrooms, toilets, to scrub toilets for a living. Now, I've spoken about this before. It's no secret, and I'm not ashamed of that. If anything, I was thankful to have a job that put a roof over my head. And I'm happy to share this aspect of my life because I know that some of my subscribers are in a similar situation. And you know what? If I can improve and if I can get out of that, so can they, right? Because we both know that building a business is really hard, and even just getting started is really hard. It takes so much courage to do it. So if you're feeling a bit stuck or a bit uncertain about things, then maybe this will give you some clarity. Because in order to succeed, you need to have 4 traits. That's how I see it anyway. So you need to have self-belief. You also need to have compassion. You need to have discipline. And you need to have patience. Now, I discovered these by reading the Bible. It encourages all those traits. And I will break each one of these down for you. And I'll also share a verse to provide context. Now, of course, the practical application is open to interpretation. But this is what works for me. Okay, so the first trait is self-belief. Self-belief is a cycle because it's your belief that determines your actions. And then it's your actions that determine your results, and it's your results that then reinforce your beliefs. It's a cycle. Now, if you're stuck in a negative feedback loop, it is going to take strength to fix it. Now, Joshua 1:9 says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged." So what that means to me is start with small tasks that are easily achievable. Use them as building blocks to increase your confidence and alter your perception. And when you start to see more positive results, that will encourage you to keep going. And eventually, you'll become more productive and achieve more with less effort. Okay, so the second trait is compassion. Now, what is compassion? Why does it matter? And how is compassion going to help you become a more successful entrepreneur? Well, compassion is made up of 3 layers. The first layer is sympathy. So that's when you understand how someone feels. The next layer on top of that is empathy, and that's when you can relate to how someone feels. And then the final layer is compassion itself, and that is when you take action to help someone. So compassion is sympathy and empathy in action. Now this matters because to become a successful entrepreneur, you need to understand and relate to your customers' feelings, how they feel about their pain points. And you need to have the desire or the willingness to help them to solve those problems. The next trait is discipline. Now, I have entire 30-minute videos dedicated to discipline, so I'll keep this brief. But people sometimes confuse discipline with motivation. And motivation is different because that gives you an excuse to fail. It says it's okay to procrastinate, that it's okay to wait until you feel good about it or feel motivated. Now, Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 4 says, "The one who watches the wind will not sow seed, and the one who looks at the clouds will not reap." Now, for me, that means don't wait for conditions to be perfect. And that's why discipline works. It works because it makes you work, even when you don't want to, or even when you don't feel like it, because we all fall into the trap of motivation, at least sometimes, right? And I'm just as guilty as anybody. I took about a year out of the business. I took a year out of creating content. And instead of knuckling down and just doing the work, I spent time bouncing around hotels and airports, and I went wherever I felt like going. But thankfully, I did put in enough work to build a business that allows me to do that. And that took discipline. So create a routine, start small and commit to just doing one thing every day or even every week if you need to. For me, I have an hour of my week scheduled for making content. So no matter what happens, now I show up. And usually by the end of that hour, because I've been so disciplined, certainly enough to do the work, I feel proud of myself and I feel even more motivated to carry on and do even more work. And one of the key components to maintaining discipline that nobody talks about is rewarding yourself. I've seen gurus telling people to not waste their money on things like fancy restaurants or designer clothes or expensive watches or even their own education. Now, I disagree with that. I think if you want a Rolex and it won't create a financial issue, go put yourself on the waiting list. It's the big reward and it's going to help you to maintain discipline. So the final trait is patience. Now, not only is success about playing the long game, it's also about making the right decisions. So if you rush into something without taking the time to really think about it, you might overlook something important. It will help you to select the best opportunities when you approach things with patience. And having patience is going to make you more resilient too. It will help you to keep focused on the big picture instead of getting caught up in the temporary ups and downs. Now, James 5:11 says, "We consider happy those who have endured." So to me, this means that we need to be persistent, have patience, and prepare ourselves to walk a long and often lonely road. Because in entrepreneurship, when all is said and done, developing these 4 traits takes time. And to do that, it's actually pretty easy because you just need to build upon what you've already got. And when you do that, you'll begin to realize that you're already much further along the journey than you first thought. So, by focusing on gratitude, again, this book encourages it. So by focusing on gratitude, all the things, all the people that you're thankful for, the experiences that you've had, the lessons you've learned, even the difficult ones, all these things have brought you right down to this moment. And now that you're here, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do now? Well, for me, I believe in abundance. I believe in infinite possibility. I believe there's enough in this world for everyone. So, be generous. Be generous with your time, with your finances, with your compassion, with your patience. And it's okay to make mistakes. People avoid making mistakes, but the path to success is never a straight line. It's always up and down, but we're afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid of looking stupid or wasting time or wasting money or being let down or being hurt. And when that happens, we start to punish ourselves. I see people punish themselves in the most horrific ways. We always put ourselves down. We criticize ourselves. And much of the reality of what we experience is just the result of those stories that we tell ourselves. People are walking around listening to their internal dialogue, and that often just causes them pain. And I used to talk to myself in that way too. I would be very self-critical. And then someone pointed out to me that we would never speak to a friend the way that we speak to ourselves. So, if you are constantly reinforcing this belief that you're no good or you're not capable of achieving great things or you don't deserve to be happy, just stop for a second. Just stop and think, because would you ever talk to a friend like that? Of course not. So why would you talk to yourself in that way? And that's one of the reasons why the verses that I've shared today resonate with me. And someone I love encouraged me to share this side of my life with you. But they also warned me that I would probably lose subscribers and possibly a lot of revenue. And do you know what? That's okay, because it's probably worth it if it helps someone who really needs it. But I'll leave that for you to decide. So thank you for being here with me today. I do hope I see you again, and God bless.